Shout out to G-Man Boxing.
Frank Warren recently gave an interview with the Daily Star, which I'm going to quote directly here now in a sec. He was having a dig at Eddie Hearn, right? He was having a dig at Eddie Hearn because he feels that as a promoter, he is not doing what he should be doing with Billy Joe Saunders in the run up to this fight with Canelo. Now, I done a video last week where I touched on the fact that Eddie Hearn has publicly admitted that he is working on Canelo versus Caleb Plant for, I think, sometime in September, providing, of course, that Canelo gets by Billy Joe Saunders. Now, I could understand him saying that if Canelo was signed to Eddie Hearn and Billy Joe was still with Frank Warren. I could get him coming out saying things like that. But when Billy Joe is your fighter as well, it's not exactly a good look. If you're going to do that, why are you letting people know? And, even Billy Joe came and kind of said, oh, well, my promoter is, working on Canelo's next fight, even though he's not got by me yet. It is a bit silly, but I want to quote what Frank Warren is saying here. He basically says, if anyone can beat Canelo Alvarez, then for me, it is Billy Joe Saunders. And it seems like I've got more faith in Saunders pulling off an upset than his own promoter. Eddie Hearn said he's already talking to IBF super middleweight champion Caleb Plant's team about an undisputed clash with Canelo. If I was Saunders, I wouldn't want my promoter coming out and saying that. The Brit is preparing to put his WBO title on the line against the pound-for-pound star and current WBA and WBC champion on May 8th. Of course, I worked with Saunders for most of his career, so I know as well as anyone what he's capable of. Saunders at his best can beat anyone in the division, and Alvarez is no different, but my fear is how comfortable the Mexican is at the weight now. Alvarez has gone to light heavyweight and handled a huge fighter like Sergey Kovalev. Now he's back down at 168. He is very, very good at the weight. Saunders moved up from middleweight to become a two-weight world champion. The question will be, is he strong enough to keep Alvarez off for 12 rounds? Saunders has also not been as active as I would like. He needs to be in the ring regularly to show his best, but he has the skill set to do this. Saunders at his best is brilliant. He's a superb boxing brain and can outthink any fighter. That's what Frank Warren had to say there. Now, Frank Warren is basically he's insinuating that he believes in Billy Joe Saunders, that he believes Billy Joe Saunders can beat Canelo, but then turns around and says, but at this weight division, Canelo looks like this and he needs Billy Joe more active. It's a bit contradictory there. So he's basically saying Billy Joe can win, but he needs to be more active. It's just like, are you picking him to win or what? When I read that and I see what Frank Warren said there, the first thing that comes to mind is people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Look back at Dubois versus Joyce. Look back at look back at Joe Joyce from the minute he signed with Queensbury back in 2019. How BT Sports were talking to him and, post-fight interviews, how Frank Warren was very dismissive of him. And then look at Frank Warren in the ring after Joe Joyce beat Daniel Dubois. Bear in mind, right, he has both fighters. So irrespective of who wins, you're promoting both guys. So it's a win-win for you. Whoever wins can go on to bigger, better things. Whoever loses, you can build them back up. He looked like a girl who'd just been told her fella was cheating on them in the ring after that fight. He just had that real annoyed look, and it's like, that's your fighter. It's not like he's a matchroom fighter who's come over to BT Sport and beat your guy. He's your fight. You're promoting him. Why are you upset? Why are you talking so dismissively about Joe Joyce? So for Frank Warren to come out and say that about Eddie Hearn, I think it's a bit rich. But Frank Warren is one of those guys where you give him any bit of ammunition to chuck at Eddie Hearn and he will take it. He'd be like a fish out of water. He will jump on that rod and just be like, yep, I'll chuck that at Eddie Hearn. In terms of what he's saying about Billy Joe Saunders, like that, I give Billy Joe a better chance against Canelo. But when I see the promoter Eddie Hearn coming out and saying things like, I'm already planning Canelo's next fight, this, that, and the other, it's not a good sign. It's not a good look because it shows your promoter has no faith in you. Well, I don't say he has no faith in him, but it shows that who the promoter is backing. And that to me kind of says that Billy Joe won't get any favours in this fight. If it goes to points, and say for argument's sake he does. Say we watch that fight and we say, do you know what, Billy Joe he's won more rounds, he's deserved to win this fight, and we get a 118, 110 scorecard for Canelo. That's kind of what goes on in your head when you hear things like that. With Billy Joe, I suspect that this is going to be his last fight with Eddie Hearn. I don't know what kind of deal he's locked into, but I know Eddie Hearn tends to do 3-fight deals, for the most part anyway. I would imagine it's something similar with Billy Joe. in which case this would be, yeah, this would be his third fight. So you'd imagine that he's probably going to look elsewhere for a promoter, and I guess Frank Warren is obviously trying to coax Billy Joe back to Queensbury. And if Billy Joe wins, I think maybe Warren is just thinking, what if Billy Joe pulls this off? What if he pulls an upset off and he does beat Canelo by hook or by crook? What if he beats him? Well, I want to make sure that I'm still in his good books, because they did have, and by Frank Warren's standards, this is rare, they did split amicably. They were trained for many, they were working together for many, many years. So when they split, and they spent years together, so when they split, it was amicable, which doesn't very seldom happen with Frank Warren. So I'm assuming Warren is still trying to stay in the good books for Billy Joe. So if he wins, or even if he decides to keep going and does a good account of himself, he can say, come on back over to Queensbury and BT, we'll have you. I'd imagine it's something like that. I never did understand, but look, you shouldn't be loyal to any promoter. And if a promoter's offering you more money, you should go there, definitely. And if it's as a chance for you to better your career, definitely go. But with Eddie Hearn, Billy Joe had said so many things about Eddie Hearn. His dad, publicly said he wanted to fight Eddie Hearn. I think they even accused Eddie Hearn of the nasal spray or something like that, or the failed, in the build to the cancelled Demetrius Andre fight. So for that to all do a 180 in a year, it was bizarre to me. And I just remember thinking, is Billy Joe really going to get treated as fairly as other people have, given the fact he said so many things about Eddie Hearn in the past? I mean, Eddie Hearn, I'm sure, has a thick skin, so I'm sure he doesn't mind, but it does make you kind of think about those kind of things. But in terms of this, look, in every aspect of life, you're going to get people who are going to favour someone over the other. It's just the way people are. I remember a friend of mine back before Christmas came to me, and he said that he was really pissed off in his job because a boss he'd worked with for well over a year had always been, legit with him, had always been cool. And then they took someone on, or something worse to that effect, he took someone on, and all of a sudden, this person wasn't even that good, but the two of them, the boss and that person, got on. They were getting preferential treatment, stuff like that, and I just said, look, that's what happens. People are like that, It's not a case of, it's not nothing that you did. It's just a case of they see someone they like better, they think they can, get more out of them. They're just going to give them preferential treatment. It's just the way it is, just the way people are. My response to that is, don't bend over backwards for that person. If you're doing, an hour overtime a night because that person wants you to do it, just don't do it. Simple as, just don't do it. Just say no. I've done all this for you and you've literally put me to one side, just don't do it. Simple as. So I'd imagine something like that with Billy Joe is going to happen next. Anyway, I'm going to leave this here. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Do you think Billy Joe may end up going back to Frank Warren, or do you think Frank Warren is in the right to call out Eddie Hearn on it? I do find it quite rich, considering he done pretty much the same, with Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce, without openly saying he was planning Daniel Dubois' next fights. He sure as hell looked pissed off when Joe Joyce won. Let me know your thoughts. Hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button if you did. #GMansRocks, all that good stuff. Lads and lassies, I'll talk to you. Peace.